Good morning. Welcome to the program. It's a beautiful 7th day of July 2025. This is Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Olo. Karibu sana to the program from now until, yes, being a Monday, and today being the Sabasaba Day, all of us know what's really is happening across the country. 35 years ago today, members of the public took to the streets, that is in 1990, while fighting for multi-party democracy and so many things, change of constitution, etc., etc. That is what's happening. And I have to make it clear that it is not a public holiday. It's not a public holiday. It is just a commemoration of what happened 35 years ago. Yesterday, CS Labour, Godfrey Ruko, said that all public servants must be at work. And that is why we are here. So if you're a public servant, please make sure that you go to work. Even if you're not a public servant, go to work. It's not a public holiday. Go to work. All right? All right. Welcome to the program. We'll be taking a look at so many things. Of course, also taking a look at what's in the newspapers later on. And also getting to the discussion, I want to talk about strengthening democracy in the country, even as we take a look at what really happened 35 years ago, what we've achieved as a nation, and why we needed to do more to achieve what we have not achieved this far. So Robert Alai, who is a member of County Assembly, Nairobi County, representing the great people of Kileleshwa Ward, is here in studio. Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Good to see you.
Asante sana.
It's been a while since you sat on this set.
Yeah,
right?
It's been a while. It's a very long while.
How is Kenya doing?
I think Kenya is doing well. It can be better, but I think that we are, facing a lot of challenges here and there.
Yeah.
But as a country, we have to remain one, because we have a lot of challenges, and I believe that there are ways of resolving it. Maybe we have not found the perfect way.
Yeah.
But the Project Kenya is going on well.
I love the word, the Project Kenya.
Yeah.
Going on well.
Yes.
As a member of County Assembly, you're a legislator.
Yes.
And a lot of Kenyans will always say that legislation, when it comes to some of these policies that we're having as a country, perhaps are not, making it so easy for Wanjiku to operate freely. What do you think of that?
No, I think it needs to be very specific, because you have the national legislations, and now the counties, and county legislations are also now not bylaws. They're actually laws of acts of law. Yeah. And when you go to the various counties, Nairobi City County being having the second biggest parliament after the National Assembly, with 124 members. I think there are a lot of challenges we are facing as a capital city, in terms of governance, and it's also in terms of separation of powers between the executive and the assembly. And I think that the bill which was signed by the president recently is going to give the assemblies autonomy, so that we can implement some of the programs. We have not been able to implement some of the programs because of that lack of autonomy. That everything we do, we have to consult the governor, or the office of the county treasury, or the county finance, and so on. So I think some of the things, if you let the assembly run its accounts, run its own budget, there are some of the things which we can oversight properly and ensure that they are properly implemented. Because if you don't give the assemblies autonomy, nothing much is going to be implemented by the executives in the 47 counties.
All right. We'll get into that. All right. So Daniel Juma Mondi, who is the CEO of Global Peace Foundation, will also join us shortly, as well as His Excellency Dr. Ali Mali Mohamud, who is a Deputy Governor of Mandera County. It's crazy across the city, I have to admit. Getting into this place is not easy. Roads blocked almost everywhere, getting into the CBD. But I think that is our own making, because when you give that leeway, we all know what really happened last week. And this time around, the security officers are not taking any chances where that is concerned. We talked about recovery last week, and many business owners, Mwesh, you are representing the great people generally of Nairobi.
Yes.
You feel the pinch, the pain, and the cries, of business people in the city. So much I would say that roads are blocked and there's no movement into the CBD. There's a reason for that.
Yes.
And last week, the maandamano we had, the destruction of property, the looting, many people have not yet recovered to date.
Yeah. You know, and this is what we were talking about in the press conference we had with the various MCAs, close to more than 40 MCAs yesterday. And we highlighted that it is very unfair to the small business traders that somebody who has a stock of 1 million, 2 million shillings has to put a metal grill worth 200, 300,000 just to stop people from looting their businesses. It is not fair to these business people that they have to spend so much ensuring that their businesses are not looted. You know, people are facing a hard time. The extra money they're putting up for reinforced steel and concrete and so on to ensure that nobody gets into their shops can be spent elsewhere. They can spend it on their education, on the medications, and on transport to work and so on, or even on adding their stock. So I found it very absurd that, you know, as a Nairobi City County, the challenge you are facing today is that the city, the CBD especially, is facing the brunt, is facing the risk that it is being destroyed. Every project we put up, you remember the governor just deployed installed some of the good, you know, dustbins all over the city. And in 2 days, they were all destroyed. In 2 days, they were all destroyed. You know, the concrete, you know, the slabs and so on, the pavement. If you walked in the CBD that day after the 25th, you would see that some of the plants were even uprooted. So I think it's a huge destruction. You know, shops along Kimathi Street, Moi Avenue, Ronald Gala, Tomboya, and so on, were completely destroyed. There's a friend of mine who is a pilot, Dominic Mugambi. And Dominic Mugambi has a computer shop, you know, along Kenyatta Avenue. It was destroyed and goods worth close to 8 million shillings, you know, looted. And you know, so it's very unfair to these traders because you can feel that this guy is just trying to pay some loans he took, and now that the whole stock has been destroyed, there's nothing much he can do. So
it's all for the good reason that we experience what's happening. But I think a lot needs to be done because when the CS said that people should come to work, I have to admit that I'm a victim of today's operation. You show your badge, you know, tell them where you're going to, but they're still adamant. I think for all the good reasons, if there is a reason why somebody has introduced or herself, then they should be let to go to work, or anybody who is willing to go to work. Okay, so let me take you through the front page of the local newspapers very fast. Police, medics, and lawyers, that's the front page of the Star newspaper. This is what I have on the front page of the Star newspaper. The front page says that police, medics, and lawyers fuel insurance claims fraud. That is what I have on the front page of the Star newspaper. That police, medics, and lawyers fuel insurance claims fraud. There's, it says that crooked officers part of syndicate swindling firms out of billions of shillings. This is what I have here. Crooked officers part of syndicate swindling firms out of billions. And that story is totally detailed there for you on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Propaganda, Ruto says, of 1.2 billion shillings, State House Church. That is what is here. Propaganda, Ruto says, of 1.2 billion shillings, State House Church. The president actually answered his critics who said that the president is constructing a church worth 1.2 billion shillings in State House, and many people said that's a public land. And the president said that it's just, you know, 300 capacity seater in State House, and so far what is there is a Mabati structure, so to speak. That is what I have here. Ruto's new headache as activists sustain demos. Mobilization has gained momentum, spearheaded by anonymous accounts. That is what is here. Thugs storm KHCR as malls, schools close over protests. The inside pages. Top banks counters glow on improved Africa ranking. Some good news there. Cooperative and NCBA have joined KCB and Equity in the elite list. Some good news there when it comes to the economy and money matters. The news of Cooperative Bank Group and NCBA joining the list of 23 top banks in Africa has excited investors as the National Securities Exchange, prompting a marginal surge in their share prices. That is some good news there. Still continuing the inner pages of the Star newspaper. Before I go to the next page, police, doctors, and lawyers fuel insurance claims fraud. That is what's on the inner pages of the Star newspaper. Fake claims, losses in numbers. Insurance fraud cases rose by 45% in Q1 to 55 from 38, same period in 2024. That's according to IRA. The amount lost to insurance fraud globally is around $80 billion, or you can relate to or translate to 4% of all the claims filed. In Kenya, insurance fraud caused firms 8 to 10% of total premiums annually. That's according to AKI. And now firms rejected 658 million shillings in claims in the first quarter of 2025. Of the 500 fraud cases flagged last year, fewer than 50 reached court and fewer than 10 ended in conviction. And last but not least, that the counties with rampant insurance fraud is Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, and Machakos. And finally, 5 Toyota car models insurers resist Probox, Succeed, Sienta, Paso, and Toyota Porte. Yes, that's what is here. So that is just but a brief of what's happening around here. Daniel Jumogutu, Omondi, sorry, CEO Global Peace Foundation, joining us on set. CEO, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
You're well?
I'm well, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Sorry I came late. Accessing the city wasn't easy, you know.
Yeah,
but
that's
here.
where we live.
Yes.
Karibu.
Yes.
Gentlemen, we have to give it up to the queen of the track, queens of the track. The ladies doing great jobs. Much as we have problems here, but some ladies are making it out there. Let's start with Kipyegon, Faith. The lady just broke her own world record. That is crazy. Daniel.
Amazing. I watched it live.
Right.
And it made me proud as a Kenyan. Mm-hmm. And as I watched Faith Kipyegon doing us proud there, I mean, if I had tears, they would have rolled down my eyes, because here you have a Kenyan who is doing all her best, you know, against all odds.
Yes.
You know, to make us proud. Even with all the challenges that we have here, I think those are some of the moments, the few moments that should keep us together, you know, and make us proud to being Kenyans. Huh?
Yeah.
And even as we go through what we are going through in these days, you know, where the young people are, you know, they appear stressed. Huh? I think when they look at what Faith Kipyegon is doing and Chebet, it basically tells you that just like Kipchoge said, that no human is limited.
Yeah. That
for you to succeed, it actually takes your personal effort, you know, and you know, and that's why one of the reasons I usually ask young people to think as an individual. When you go to look for that job, when you go for that interview, you're going as an individual, not as a collective, as an individual. When you miss that opportunity for being hired, it is you it's how you answer the questions, you know, and how you respond. You get my point? And so even when it comes to, of course, opportunities, you know, for young people, you may, you know, decide to think as a collective, you know, the mentality of you know, like, for example, the Gen Z mentality and all that. Huh? But at the end of the day, it is you, you know, if you are to get an opportunity, it is you to do your best and make yourself proud and make your country proud.
Absolutely. So Faith Kipyegon broke 1,500 meters, world record at the classic in the prefrontal in USA. Emily Chepkemoi also won the 2025 Nairobi City Marathon. That's happened yesterday. And Beatrice Chebet crossed the finish line to break the 5,000 meters world record in Oregon, USA. I think, allow me to clap for the queens. That's what's happening. Thank you so much for making us proud. Robert, you just have to put your word there. I mean,
you know, yeah, you know, I was very impressed by Kate.
Yes.
You know, not only did she break her own record, but she came back after trying to break, you know, the record of the 4-minute mark, you know, running under 4 minutes.
Yes.
And I think it was a very huge, you know, boost to her and you know, the fans there, outside there, that, you know, despite the setback she had just a few days ago, and trying to break the 4-minute record. She broke another record, which is her own record, you know, breaking record after record. And, you know, Beatrice, and the names, I think these people born with the names, sometimes the names influence what they do, you know, because with that faith, without faith, you get to beat your own record, and, you know, and not only break your own record, but also break the world record. And even Beatrice Chebet, very impressive young people, you know, in the US there, Oregon, Diamond League. It is a very big boost. I wish that, you know, we would in Talanta Stadium, one of the things you have to put outside there.
Robert, look at that amazing power, the finishing power that lady put there.
I know the gap between her and
number 2 and number 3.
Yes.
This is embarrassing, to say the least.
They really did great, you know.
That is amazing.
You know, it was amazing.
That is amazing.
You know,
yeah, as you correctly put it, without faith, you cannot do anything. I think it's written in the Bible that faith is enough to move mountains.
Yes.
So that's out there. There you have it. Robert, continue.
Yeah, so I think it's a very big boost, and also the morale of the country. These young athletes have continued for very many generations to influence the country, to inspire the country, even when we are down low. I think that is only be fair that some of them get proper recognitions, not only on the national stage, but also in some monuments. You know, even today we were trying to rename some of the roads, and we have recommended, you know, celebrating some of the artists, some of the athletes when they're still alive. I don't think that it's fair to name some of these major projects after athletes. Even Talanta Stadium, why shouldn't we give it a name of one of the athletes? You know, why do you have it Lalanda?
You're a member of County Assembly. That's something you should put on the table there.
And you know, for that national project, they'll do it at national level, renaming. But I think it's something that we have recommended, that don't wait until some of this...
to give them flowers.
Yes.
Kudos to the ladies, and that really happened out there. They represented our country pretty fine. So what's on the front page of the Daily Nation?
Daily Nation, I think I'm trying to study the psychology of the editors here. You know, Sabas, don't kill our sons, police and medics. So it's a very balanced newsroom output there. That there's one focused on Sabasaba, there's one focused on the plight of the mothers, and there's also one focused on the insurance fraud claims under SHA. So Nation has the photo of the...
Okay, just raise it up a bit.
So
the camera.
The photo of the I think the initial Sabasaba in 1990.
Yeah, that's the old photo.
Martin Shikuku, you know, James Orengo, and so on. And you know, in top of the famous Ford pickup. Yeah, this is how politicians used to campaign.
Yes.
So it is not
35 years ago.
No, 35 years ago. It was very hard to get a politician with a 4x4.
With a 4x4 in a sunroof. This is how it used to be.
It used to be the small cars. You know, I think the most expensive cars they used to buy, the saloon cars. You know, the small Volvos and the Mercedes Benz.
The 1200 Datsun and all
the Datsuns and all that. So.
But when you come back to when you just go back, look at that photo. I mean, that photo is deliberately put there in black and white.
Yes.
It definitely takes us back to 35 years ago.
Yeah.
What does it really show you as, you know, as a publisher, as a person who is also, as a creative, what does it really show you when you look at this photo today, what's happening today, and going back down memory lane 35 years ago, what they really fought for, as you look at that picture?
I think they had fought for freedoms, you know, in this country. Cannot be ignored, and especially this photo. But you know, the imagery, I was just looking at the two thumbs, which was the Ford Victory Salute, the Ford Sign Salute.
Yes.
And now the young people, the current Gen Zs who are trying to... The comparison. Because the two finger is not cool anymore. People are now focused on, you know, if you put a two finger, people say it's two thumb.
Yes.
so they want to, they think that the image for the struggle or for the fight.
That is Martin Shikuku.
Martin Shikuku, Martin Shikuku. I don't know who this one is, but it was very nice to meet yesterday, Suba Churchill.
Ah, great.
Yes, Suba Churchill, you know, some of the big fighters. We have Odoro Ngwen in the ODM office as the executive director. Yeah, we have some of the luminaries who are behind this thing, you know. So it's not been an easy journey.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody should expect it to be easy. It is not very easy to fight for some of these rights people are clamoring for. But I think that we need to recognize that we have a country to protect. And even if we do that, we need to safely do that without destroying property and losing lives. And I think that's what the police is trying to protect today.
Absolutely.
I think the police doesn't want a situation where the country degenerates to an extent where they now cannot control anything.
Deputy Governor of Mandera County, that is Dr. His Excellency Dr. Ali Mali Mohamud. Mheshimiwa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. You really struggled to get to studio today.
It was tough. Was it easy? All inbound traffic is really blocked.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But all in all, we are here.
Yes.
Okay. Because we're just doing the introduction part of it. Whatever we're facing, the country, we are according to the Daily Nation again. You can take us back down memory lane. 35 years ago. I don't know where were you way back then. And if you can just give us a clear picture of what happened that day, going to Kamkunji and all that, what do you really make a comparison? The Daily Nation has given a very clear comparison, the Gen Z today and the Gen Z of then, back in the day.
Well, some of us were still in high school, but it was a momentous time for Kenya. It's a time... Kenya, in a nutshell, had a number of reforms, including the gain of independence, the Saba, and of course the recent Gen Z. And I think this was one of the monumental moments outside the independence of this country. Many of them call it second liberation of this country.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that we enjoy, although we have not gone optimal yet, is as a result of really that reform of Saba, where we have gained quite a bit of space in terms of civic liberties and many other changes within our institutions. So for me, it was a major inflection point for this country. A lot of the things we realize now in terms of our political space, democratic space, have been gained at that time. But essentially, we have a very long way to go. Long way to go because, as symbolized by Gen Z movements and the many other small uprisings here and there, it clearly indicates that we have a long way to go. Yes. Okay.
Daniel, Kenya sits pretty fine, globally speaking. And when you travel out there, based the three of you, when you travel out there, what picture do you really portray as a nation when it comes to a democratic space globally?
Yeah, I think even if you start regionally, Kenya has made a lot of progress. If you compare Kenya to some of the countries in the region, you can be forgiven to think that some of our neighborhoods are still living in the medieval ages. For example, what you see in countries, like Tanzania, Uganda, where still opposition, leaders are still not free to exercise their civil liberties, their politics. So it is, they're still struggling with the basics. We left that train a long time ago. Here, and that's why I will tell young people that if you look at the struggles, even if you look at that picture, the picture of the Saba, those people were fighting for, just basic things like information. Like I remember during the Moi regime, it was basically a pure one-party state. It was a one-party state. And KANU was the only party. So you can see these people were fighting for a cause, and it was achieved. And historically, people have been fighting for causes. Even before that, before colonialism, we had people, our ancestors, fighting, running away from slavery, running away from being a slave to taken to Oman and all that. So sometimes when I go to Zanzibar and I look at the slave museum, I tell young people, look, our ancestors were fighting bigger wars. they were fighting bigger wars. They were being enslaved. They were being chased down like chicken to be sold abroad. So I can say that Kenya has made progress. We have made a lot of progress. Regionally, we are still considered a huge economy. However, the media sometimes, of course, portrays as sometimes negatively. However, even from the West, they look at Kenya as a beacon of democracy, a beacon of freedom, and this freedom, of course, was hard fought for. And when you see what the Gen Zs are doing here, what they did last year, that cannot happen in other neighboring countries. So my advice, especially to the young people, you have the freedoms that our ancestors fought for, our peers fought for, but let's protect that freedom. Protect that freedom. Our government, the current president may have these challenges, and everybody has their challenges. However, I think, in terms of even we say last year when he had, after the Gen Z, protest, when he decided to fire the whole cabinet, and when he invited the Gen Zs to come and let's have a discussion, and they said we are leaderless. I think we have a president who is willing to sit down and have a conversation. A president who is willing to reach out to the opposition and form now what Lai is calling the broad-based government. So I think some of these things were not possible before. So what we need to do is let's count our gains and let's protect them. But then on the other hand, I think we are making progress in terms of police, police training. We need a lot of police training. And I think our police are learning that when you're dealing with these masses, you need to learn how to manage the crowds. And this has been a problem with previous demonstrations, previous protests. Whereas Article 37 of the Constitution says we are free to protest. But sometimes when you see the way sometimes the police also, like when I was coming here, they've already closed the road. Now when you close the road, and I understand why they're doing it, I can see people already starting to ask them, why are you blocking the road? Why are you doing it? So, I understand it's a difficult work for the police. So they must find that balance. How do you protect lives under the same property, and at the same time allow those who are coming to work, go to work without interference?
That's really happening. And, Robert, when you look at the democratic space that we are enjoying right now, gentlemen, 35 years ago, when we look at the course that our forefathers fought for, I mean, the older generation, the Martin Shikukus of this world, the Odingas of this, they had a cause they are fighting for. But what's the difference between what we are fighting for today and what was there pre-new constitution?
I think is the challenge when this, because you're fighting for the multipartism in this instance, the ability to express ourselves, to enjoy more freedoms, detention without trial and things like that. But I think that when you have gained those freedoms, we are now going ahead and fighting for other freedoms. The Gen Zs are now claiming that, they're fighting abductions. It's very interesting that, the national conversation has been elevated to more complex issues which cannot be, solved by one, brush of the paint. Because I don't believe that abductions or extrajudicial killings or so, it's a uniquely Kenyan problem, even the regional context. I think it's a governance problem on how to handle, especially when you have a young country like Kenya enjoying more freedoms. The freedoms and the society we're living in is not very complex. We still have a major part of the population which is very poor. How do you ensure that you properly police them, you properly manage them? We need to have a more organized society in that regard. So when you compare, especially, and also, when my first foray in the region, I worked in Tanzania and DRC. And in Tanzania, when Mkapa was president and Kikwete was just joined, became the president in 2005, when I was still in Tanzania. And then later went into the DRC and was having the peacekeeping mission there. And you could see where Kenya is. Kenya was at a level where you'd be so impressed. I was, living in Kinshasa, a city which is 14 times bigger than Nairobi, but destroyed by war, by civil strife. A country which stretches from, the western side of the continent to the eastern side, very huge, you know, the Congo River, but still have challenges. You know, people take a month traveling from Kinshasa, you know, to Vira on the Congo River. You know, people are dying. People, if you see the kind of, but the country is so rich. There is no single mineral you can mention in this earth which does not exist in the Congo. And yeah, with a small population. And also, but people have never seen peace for the last 40 years. So you could see that Kenya is at a very, if you move into Uganda, you meet the presidential convoy with those big APCs, armored personnel carriers, escorting the president. Then you say that we are far much ahead. You get to Sudan when you're serving the UN, sometimes they loan you to other missions. And you go to South Sudan then, and you see the kind of challenges, even a basic medication for the households. Yeah. I think that Kenya is at a level where we need to be proud of ourselves of what you have achieved, but we also need to find ways of protecting it, because otherwise, some of these things we joke. You saw what happened in the Sudan sometimes back, where doctors, lawyers, and engineers led, you know, the reforms they were clamoring for, and then they went into a power sharing agreement with the military. And eventually, the military even broke. There's a special force now fighting the main army. You know, even if you give that country 50 years, 40 years, they might not be able to recover some of the, you know, some of the modernizations which they had done, some of the kind of blips they had faced under what they called a dictator then, you know, Omar al-Bashir. And I think that we need to sometimes jealously protect some of the gains we have made. Because, and you've seen the roads, sometimes these roads can crash. In just one demonstration, you see a very huge infrastructural project destroyed. Exactly. You know, the assembly was burnt. It took, I think we're still recovering. I don't think we have even recovered a third of it. Some of the assembly committee rooms cannot work up to now. You know, the finance office was burnt, the main executive, and so on. The last time, I think on 25th, they wanted to get into the city hall annex. And if it was not because of the inspectorate and the enforcement team boosting the police work there, I think it would be burnt now. And you saw what happened to the National Parliament. Some of these institutions is very hard to build, and also the records. You see what we're just seeing in one of the papers there, the exhibit, there, I think it's in the Daily Nation, the exhibit room at the Olkalau. How will you convict some of those criminals when all the exhibits have been burnt down? So I think that we need to jealously guard some of the gains we have made as a country, ensure that we don't destroy the country as we clamor for more.
DJ, how is Mandera, basically?
Oh, good. We're doing well. We don't have Gen Z protest. So things are okay there.
All right.
Yes.
You know, Robert has given us a clear background of what we should protect, basically, the democratic space that we are enjoying as a nation. You know, when you look at, not even before Sabasaba, there was a course as to why the older ladies and gentlemen, what they were fighting for, and today we are enjoying. Is the current generation fighting for something?
I think that is a very pertinent question. We were fighting all of the reforms, the three reforms we have talked about, independence, Sabasaba, Gen Zs, were all fighting for something, each one of them, but slightly different. In the sense that during independence, we were fighting for decolonization, land reforms, rights, and all those things. When it comes to, so President Moi, and of course Kenyatta before him, there was some sort of dictatorship. There are some good things. In every reform, there are certain good things, there are certain bad things. And during Moi's time, granted, we were very young as a country, and we need a little bit of control. I don't want to call it benevolent dictatorship, but in a way, what we enjoy in Kenya today is as a result of some of the things that happened during Kenyatta's time, and more importantly, during Moi's time. And one of those things is education. If you go globally, you will notice how much far ahead Kenyans are in terms of education. At least in Africa, we are probably number one or number two in terms of education space and all that, and science and all that. But also come to the Sabasaba, where now we needed more well-established, deep institutions where people wanted more liberties, where people wanted inclusion. And more importantly, the key pillar for the Sabasaba was the formation of multi-party, moving away from single party, the de facto, one-party state, to a multi-party system, which we have achieved, with the repeal of, Section 2A, Section 2 of the Constitution. And really, that was the biggest gain that we have made. And today, what we want as a country is slightly different, because there is systematic ethnic exclusion among Kenyans are feeling in terms of economic inclusion and all that.
Allow me to take a break. Can I?
Sure.
Let's take a break. And we come back, I'll just circle back with you for you to continue that statement. I mean, it's just so sweet going back memory lane. And history is beautiful. All right, so let's take a break. When we come back, still continue with this discussion. Stay with us.